spawning in the bottom left position as the red Zerg player coming in for Acer. It is ParanOid. And spawning in the bottom right position, he's already sent out a probe for a possible proxy. It is Root Gaming's Sage. So, already the interesting choice being made by our Korean Protoss player for Root Gaming. He's actually had a pretty tremendous amount of results so far in the Acer TeamStory Cup, taking out a lot of players, being one of the two carries, him and Yu-Gi-Oh! For Root Gaming. So it'll be interesting to see how he decides to kick this match off. No pylon in the main base yet, so I can only assume he's going for the closest possible proxy gate possible. He's going to put it in a very ballsy position right in the natural expansion of ParanOid. We already going to have a pretty interesting start to this, a little bit of a chatting going on here between Sage and ParanOid. And this is, it's the mind games. He's getting inside ParanOid's head with this banter, and now the proxy gateway has been started for Sage. And you know what? ParanOid doesn't know about this. He isn't going for any kind of drone scout. The probe has arrived, and this looks like a pretty standard time probe from ParanOid. So this doesn't look unusual to him at all. Another probe coming in here. He's going to start his spawning pool at 14 supply, but is it going to be in time? The gateway is about halfway done. It doesn't look like he's going to make a second gateway. He's going to build a pylon at home. So it's a proxy one gate. But this is also going to incredibly delay the expansion for ParanOid, as well as possibly just killing him. His probe is poking away as much as it can. It might be able to kill a drone off. 17 hit points remaining on that one, but it will get away. And this probe is just being as annoying as possible. He really wants to distract ParanOid from the banter to the probe harass. He wants to keep him unaware, but now the drone sees it. He knows about this. The first Zealot's on the way, being chrono boosted out. The spawning pool still 15 seconds away. There's only one larva available. A second one now ready. So he'll be able to make 4 Zerglings, but with good Zealot control, he can take that out. Now, the real question is, how is he going to respond? He's going to throw in a spawning pool. So, excuse me, a spine crawler. So this is going to be his choice of defense. Of course, he can hold position his drones around the spine crawler to prevent the Zealot from reaching it. So, taking as conservative an approach as possible. He's making 6 Zerglings and that Queen now. So, behind this, Sage may just build up his money. He's chronoing out another Zealot, so it's going to be really interesting to see. With this Forge back home, it does look like he wants to expand behind this, but using the drone to block surface area so that the Zealots can get more hits in. Zerglings are running around, and he's just going to go straight for Sage's base and let the Zealots chase him all the way home. So a good decision by ParanOid, saving himself from all of the aggression by just sending the Zerglings over. Now, there is a Photon Cannon on the way for Sage, but there's no wall set up, so ParanOid can just run straight on by and into Sage's base. Now, the Zerglings are going to try to chase on this probe. Sage wants to leave the Zerglings away as much as he can, but at the same time, the natural expansion still blocked by this this pylon and this gateway. Queen coming down. The Zealot might try to kill off this Queen. It can't really run away on the creep, but the Zerglings are there to support it. The Photon Cannon is finishing right now, but is it too late? The probes are being brought to the top of the ramp to prevent the Zerglings from getting inside of Sage's base. He's going to mineral walk through the Zerglings, but that's just going to let ParanOid come inside, and now, with no Stalker anywhere near remotely close to being produced, there's no gas. He can chase these Zealots around all day, dealing tons of damage to these probes. He's trying to get a good surround on the Zerglings, but Sage isn't really choosing to fight them that much. He's taking tons of damage here. Zealot gets in, carves up two of the Zerglings, but Nexus is on the way. He has the cannon to cover the front, but these Zerglings are going to be a huge pain in his side for a while now. And have a hatchery started at the 3rd area, and now the Natural's clear for another hatchery. So with no gas, Sage is pretty far away from getting up any Stalkers. He also doesn't have a gateway. He can't get a Cybernetics core even. So this one Zealot will be chasing the Zerglings for a little while. Fortunately, he was able to get a 3rd Zergling there. So 3 Zerglings, not quite as scary anymore running around the base. But of course, it is going to draw Sage's multitasking off guard. No gas yet for ParanOid. He's uprooted his Spine Crawler. He can move that down to the natural whenever he wants. Spreading creep to help defend that base. And already moving some Zerglings to make sure there's nothing over by his 3rd. And Sage, continuing to chase these Zerglings around, has managed to reduce the Zergling count to 2. So it's nowhere near as threatening now. The probes can defend themselves for the most part. But Sage, natural expansion is about to complete as well. So he's going to be pretty well off economically, at least as far as cheesing goes. So with the gateway completing, though, his tech is going to be so late. And I mean, there's no gas for ParanOid either, and he's just now getting the hatchery and the natural expansion, but it's a pretty awkward position for both players. The drone count isn't substantially high enough to warrant any kind of extreme lead for ParanOid, but this game may just normalize, turn into a regular PvZ. In Heart of the Swarm, we've seen a lot of interesting play, especially around our Stargates, but Probe is already going around to possibly scout out for that third base. It is rallied over there. There is a Zergling at the watchtower that will be able to spot this Probe, though. So Paranoid can take this out, stop the scouting as much as he wants, and still just droning up. So Sage is now getting together his probe count. He's banked a lot of gas because of how late the cybernetics core is, so we could see him go for there. It's going to be a Stargate play, so he has a lot of gas. So with this setup, he can, of course, go for the Phoenix to scout. He can get the Oracle to put on some pressure. And the Probe does get in here. He does see that Sage has taken this base. So, that Paranoid's taken this base. So, he knows now. And at this time, we're going to have the gas taken by Paranoid. So, both players are doing everything really, really late. And that's just kind of what the cheese does. It didn't do an incredible amount of damage, but it did force... Not quite as much as Sage may have liked having to bring those Zealots home, but Stalker is out, Mothership Core as well, and the Stargate is about to complete. So, basically all of the timings in this game are out the window. These players have to go based on their guts and as well as scouting information. There's no definite timing to say, okay, he could possibly have Mutalisk at this point. A Century Immortal push would hit at this timing, because if Sage was going for something crazy like that, it'd be impossible to know when based on the game time, because the cheese, we had the delayed expansion for Paranoid, we had the very delayed tech for Sage, so it's going to be very interesting to see which of these players can survive most in this very, very weird situation, as it were. But Stalker Zealots coming up with the Mothership Core to harass this third base now. Poking away, may get a drone kill. Queen's going to try to shove the Stalker back. There aren't too many Zerglings here, but there are a couple. The Mothership Core dealing as much damage as it can. Providing a lot of support. He can recall in a couple of seconds. He may have to do that to get his units out of here. The Zealots are going to get caught by the Zerglings, and there's that recall. Gets everything away back to the natural expansion Nexus. A couple of really damaged Zealots, but all right for the most part. And 2 Phoenix on the field now. Looks like Sage may be trying to take a third base behind this Stargate. Overlord coming in for Paranoid, but what has he scouted? He's seen the Stargate. He knows this is a pretty standard setup now for Sage, but he can rule out any possibility of something like an Immortal follow-up or really fast Colossus play. So he is going to get a Spire, which is not a terrible decision. Typically, Protoss players will transition from Stargate into Robo relatively quickly so that they can deal with Hydralisk transitions, but now Infestation Pit. And with the Spire, it's a pretty interesting choice. It could be looking to preemptively counter a Robotics tech switch, but Zerglings are doing their best to prevent Sage from taking that third base that he wants. The Probe is in position, but the Zerglings will immediately spot it. And these Phoenix are just dealing as much damage as they can, being annoying, picking up this Queen, harassing it. 3 Phoenix cannot kill a Queen on their own, but he's done a bit of damage to it. And with the 4th Phoenix arriving very soon, he should be able to kill it off, but one of the Phoenix at very, very low hit points will have to get away from that Spore Crawler. And Sage not yet able to throw on this third base. There's Zerglings. He has the speed complete. He's basically just waiting there. And a second Spire for Paranoid, so he might just move straight into Hive, which would be very, very interesting. He's adding on a lot of Spore Crawlers in his main base. Drones are heading over to begin working away at this 4th base, and the Phoenix are just looking for anything they can pick up at all. Sage just now pushing out, going to be getting a third base now at the 11:30 mark, so not as early as he probably wanted with how long that Probe has been down there. Throws a force field to protect. The Probe barely saves it, lifts up with his Phoenix. Man, this Probe got the VIP treatment this game, and Phoenix are going to be returning home. Now, there are 5 of them, and we're going to have Void Ray production start for Sage. He's gotten the Robotics facility. Robotics Bay is coming in now, so we will be able to move into that Colossus tech. But Flyer Carapace is starting for Paranoid, so he wants to invest in the long term on these units. It could be for Mutalisks to tank a little bit more damage from Stalkers, but unlikely with the double Spire play. But no Hive yet. It makes this very, very interesting. It could very well be Mutalisks. It's going to be Corruptors, though, so without any kind of Roachwarn or Hydralisk Den, this is a pretty interesting decision from Paranoid. He doesn't have too much meat in his army composition. Void Rays will deal reasonably well with the Corruptors, and with no Hive Tech, he can't go Broodlord, so he's not going to be able to just kill Sage with Corruptors. He needs to throw something else in here, and it will be Mutalisks. He's going to go Mutalisk Corruptor, possibly use the Corruptors to tank against the Phoenix play, while using the Mutalisks to kill the Void Rays and basically everything else. So this is a very interesting unit composition decision from Paranoid. Not quite as standard as the Roach Hydralisk Viper play that has also been popular in the metagame, but 5th base now coming in for Paranoid. Sage is aware of all of this, and this is one of the advantages of going for the Phoenix play. You know about all of the bases on the map. He hasn't actually scouted the top center base, but with the creep spread. He should be able to spot this really, really quickly. Catches one of these Mutalisks, though, for free, so a nice pickup on the part of Sage, but no Fleet Beacon yet to get that range boost, and that might actually end up hurting him if he has to get into a bit of a micro battle with these Mutalisks. Of course, they have the increased health regeneration in Heart of the Swarm, as well as the speed boost. So now the Mutas are heading over. The Corruptors are going to be here to tank as well. He needs to make sure he doesn't get caught off guard with his Mutalisks overextending, because the Corruptors tank reasonably well versus Phoenix, but Phoenix moves so much faster than Corruptors, and with the range bonus, attack have more range than Corruptors and Mutalisks. So if the Mutalisks get too far ahead, the Phoenix might be able to just pick half of them off and just run away, utilizing that range advantage. So a couple of Void Rays will actually really help deal with this, and the army composition for Sage looks like he wants to be a little bit more mindful towards the later stages of a possible Colossus Void Ray. A couple Zealot run by towards the northwest side of the map will be shut down by these Mutalisks. One Zealot does break through, maybe actually be able to get a drone kill or two, not bad. Another pressure towards the bottom left side, Phoenix coming in, picking off the drones as much as they can. There's a reasonable number of them, 7 Phoenix patrolling around, now has 8 Phoenix, so Sage is putting on the pressure, but the Mutalisks are going to try to intercept these Phoenix heading back home. He wants to get the Corruptors in position because of how slow they are, but the Void Ray Stalker Force can possibly try to intercept this. The Mutalisks are going to get in the way between Sage and his main base, but picking away at these Mutalisks, Sage doing a lot of damage, keeping these Phoenix alive. We have the Fleet Beacon is complete, but no Anion Pulse Crystal started yet to give them the range boost. The Void Rays are going to move over here, activates that Prismatic Alignment. It doesn't do bonus damage versus the Mutalisks, but now the Mutas are going to hit into the main base. Photon Overcharge activated on this Nexus. Mutalisks trying to kill as many probes as they can, and the Corruptor is getting in the way to block off these Phoenix from protecting him. He's going to lose a good number of probes, and he will lose most of these Corruptors, but the Mutalisks do get away. He's only killed 6 probes this game, and the base in the bottom left side does get sniped off by those Zealots in the meantime. So Paranoid doing a little bit of harass, but not really getting his money's worth. That those Zealot harass run-bys from Sage have been doing so much damage. Colossus production slowed for now, but he does have 1 out, which will help deal with any kind of Zergling play or Hydralisks. None such composition coming out, though, for Paranoid. And, well, another big push towards this top left side with these Phoenix coming in and going to try to possibly lift up a bunch of these units. We'll pick off an Overlord. 5th base being rebuilt by Paranoid, but Zerglings scanning around for any bases. Sage is stuck on 3 bases. It looks like he wants to take the inside base. A lot easier to defend versus Zergling run-bys because of how close it is to his 3rd, but forces are going to go clear out the northeast side. He is going to take this base as well. Mutalisk Corruptor Force heading towards the south position of the map, and the Phoenix are already here. He's not looking at them. He's going to lose 1 of them, possibly a 2nd Phoenix, but he does now have that range upgrade on his Phoenix, so he's going to be able to pick away a lot at these Corruptors. He outranges them. The Corruptors are getting a bit of damage. He's going to pick off a Phoenix, but the Stalkers have arrived as well. Photon cannons being built to cover this area. Some Zealots prepared to try to shut down this base once again. The Mutalisks, however, will be able to catch these Zealots, so not bad. Looking at upgrades, 1-1 for the Mutalisks, +2 Carapace on the Flyers, completing now. Sage, only 1-1 on his Forge upgrades, but his air weapons is still not upgraded at all. He's starting +2 attack, does not have anything upgrading at the Cybernetic score, which could end up hurting him a lot with this the armor upgrades on the Mutalisks and Corruptors, making them a lot more hardy towards the attacks of those Phoenix. So it's not terribly effective, and now the Zerglings are going to try to run by and deny the northeast base. He will be forced to cancel. Zealots going to be surrounded as well. Sage bringing everything over to attempt to stop this, but the Corruptors and Mutalisks are getting into position to shut this down as well. He needs to get a couple of good trades against this army before he can build up a really large force, but adding on gateways instead of stargates, he's trying to go for more of a possibly splash damage oriented army, getting this Templar Archives to help deal with the large Mutalisk count. But if he can force Sage onto these low base count for a while, it'll work, but he's still getting up a 4th base anyway. Sage is prepared to go for a little bit more harass. The Phoenix are just kind of running around as much as they can. The Mutalisks get into the natural expansion, picking off a ton of probes, and this is the damage that Paranoid needs to do to secure himself an advantage in this game. Photon Overcharge activated, but if he loses everything here, it will be for naught. 1 Colossus just kind of dipping around, but now the Phoenix have arrived. There's so many of them. About 12 Phoenix, it looks like, here, picking away at these Mutalisks, ripping them to shreds, and once the Stalkers join this fight, it's going to be very difficult for the Corruptors to properly tank. The Photon Cannons also picking away at this force. Paranoid caught inside of Sage's main, looking very good on the supply counter, but taking a lot of heat, and Sage is really bringing the supply count low. The Mutalisk's only path to escape is covered by these Phoenix, and now more Stalkers being warped in. There's cannons at this base as well, and Paranoid will see this base now, possibly won't even actually spot the Nexus yet, and he's losing so much of his army, reproducing a ton of Mutalisks and Corruptors, but we have Zealots being brought into the main base now. Sage trying to put on as much damage as he can to dwindle Paranoid's count of drones, and the Phoenix going to catch even more of these Mutalisks. There's nothing Paranoid can do. He's losing so much of his army. Sage, though, still still behind on supply a little bit. We have a large number of Zerglings being produced by Paranoid, trying to shut down any possible expansions, and the Mutalisks will catch off guard some of these Void Rays, but they're going to get away, and the Phoenix poking away at the Corruptors. They take a lot less damage, especially since he doesn't have any attack upgrades for his air units, but Sage doing a ton of damage to Paranoid, and that just hurts his gas bank so much. Took a little bit of harass from those Zealots, but it wasn't anything extreme. There's no more minerals left here. Slight drone saturation. A loss there, but now Sage pushing in. He has a very large gateway army to supplement these forces. The Phoenix can deal with the Mutalisks so well. It looks like Paranoid's going to try to go for a counterattack instead, possibly for some kind of awkward base trade. He doesn't kill the hatchery, so he's going to force Sage to pull everything back to defend against this. There are so many Mutalisks, and the Zergling's going to catch these probes. He's running into the natural expansion with the Lings. He's going to split them off, possibly run into the main base as well. A lot of Stalkers here activates Photon Overcharge. Some of the Corruptors trying to buffer away from these air units now. Picking up the cybernetic score, no more Stalkers to be able to produce. The Zerglings are going to try to focus down this Nexus, but he doesn't have any upgrades on the Zerglings, so killing the Nexus is going to be very difficult. Paranoid checking for any additional bases. He's going to back off now, but what he's done is bought himself a lot of time to deal with what Sage has. Zerglings, Mutalisks and Corruptors heading over towards the north side. The Phoenix are here. He's going to catch him, and the Mutalisks taking quite a bit of damage from the 7-range Phoenix. They're so powerful even without the upgrades versus those light units, but now he's going to try to use those to hold the Mutalisks at bay while Sage goes for another big push towards the 5th base of Paranoid. He's moving up now. The Stalkers stepping forward. +2/2 is done. 3/3 on the way. No upgrades for the Zerglings yet. +1 Carapace going to complete soon, but what cost? The Mutalisks and Zerglings are going to go for another big counterattack, but Sage, he's going to kill this base this time before he retreats. He doesn't have the Mothership Core with him to recall back, but a lot of these units are going to get caught. The Archons dealing massive amounts of damage to the Mutalisks, but there's so many Corruptors here, the Phoenix may not be able to take this fight on their own. Sage moving backwards, but he's down in supply now. Paranoid giving himself a huge amount of tankability with so many Corruptors. The Mutas running in towards the 3rd base now. 2 Archons morphing in, but is he going to be able to pick them up before they can finish? Yes! He does not have the splash damage that he needs to fight against this force, and the Archons that are on the field can't catch these Mutalisks. He's going to be forced to run away. Phoenix will try to poke away at the Corruptors, especially since the Archons do move faster than the Corruptors, but he's not going to be able to catch him, or they move around the same pace at least. Trying to swing around towards the north side, but using the terrain to his advantage to get away from the Archons and being able to poke away at these units as well. The Void Ray not using its prismatic alignment to deal any damage to these guys. Taking a little bit of heat. We have Sage trying to move him down. We have a bit of a Mutalisk attack now towards that 3rd base. Another big Mutalisk play at the natural, poking away as much as he can. He's really just trying to slowly just tear Sage apart, but Sage securing his 5th base now, trying to hang in here as much as he can. He's taking so much damage from this Mutalisk force. There's no blink for Sage. He can't blink into his main base. He can't run in to defend. He's gonna try to run into the 4th base now. More Stalkers being warped in, but the Corruptor Mutalisk ball is going to get away, and this only buys more and more time for Paranoid to secure his economy. Looking at the units tab, we have 76 drones versus 66 probes, 33 now Mutalisks on the field, and 15 Corruptors. So a very, very powerful army for Paranoid. Very interesting. He's not going for any kind of meaty composition. He's just using the Mutalisks to deal the damage and using the Corruptors to tank the damage. And it's a very, very interesting dynamic that we're seeing here, because a lot of Protoss players trying to go for endgame air death balls, having a lot of difficulty dealing with this because it's just so proactive on the air. He's not letting Sage build up any kind of scary forces. So 3/3 is about to complete for Sage. He's now finally getting Protoss Air Weapons 1. Zerglings are going to run over and try to deny this 5th Nexus, though, while the Zealots have been cleaned up. Ultralisk Cavern has been scouted as well. Chitinous Plating being researched, but the Zerglings trying to take out this Nexus and will not be able to. The army is there for Sage to shove him back, and it looks like he may try to flank the 4th base, possibly swinging around to the south side of the map. An observer will be able to spot the army moving in, but recognizing that the army is at the 5th base, he wants to try to kill this 4th. Maybe there's 3 photon cannons here. He moves in with the Mutalisks. They're out of position. The army over at the northeast side, the Zerglings are in position over there as well, and he's just going to try to snipe this Nexus and get out of here. He really needs to slow down the economy of Sage. He's building up so many resources. The Nexus is dead, but 3/3 now coming in flyer for Paranoid. He's actually getting baited a little bit into the main base of Sage. If he gets caught in here, he could take a lot of damage. The Void Ray coming in, prismatic alignment activated, not actually targeting the Corruptors though. In the army for Sage, he's trying to get into a position where he will completely encapsulate Paranoid's army inside of his base so that he can't get away, but it looks like he's found an opening. An Archon is in position, though, could deal a lot of damage with Splash, but no, he's going to get away. picking away at these Corruptors as well. The Stalkers are moving around. He has the 5th base set up though. Sage not giving up by any means, but 12 more Mutalisks coming in for Paranoid. He is building up quite an army composition. Man, he's just been all over the map with these Mutalisks, stealing tons and tons of damage, but the Phoenix are now moving in. +1 air weapons finishing. +2 Carapace finishing for the ground units for Paranoid, but it looks like at the time that he's using these Phoenix to push the Mutas away, the ground army is going to try to shut down the bases of Paranoid on the ground, but he needs to be very, very careful about Paranoid going for a large counterattack. He's going to pull most of his army back, but he will leave some of these Stalkers behind to kill off this hatchery. A very smart decision, partitioning off tiny bits of his army, but Mutalisk coming in, killing off a ton of probes. He's really not giving up this game. So many workers killed in this game. We've had Paranoid kill 59 probes this game. Quite a large number. And now Sage, a little bit of a move command error, trying to catch off to that top side base for Paranoid, but the Mutalisk's catching a lot of these Phoenix. Sage is doing a pretty good job of keeping his Phoenix count high, though. He's been producing 3 at a time consistently throughout, despite any losses he sustained, but he's managed to take out the center left base. This force has pushed over towards the original 3rd base, maybe able to pick off this hatchery if he gets a good positioning, because Sage right now has Paranoid all over the map. He needs to bring his Mutalisk ball as 1 in order to be able to fight off the Archon, so there's a lot of damage being taken. The Stalkers are going to try to focus down this hatchery, but the Mutalisks arrive just in the nick of time to protect it. Now, the rest of Sage's units are moving up. He does have the 2 Archons. He cannot engage these with the Mutalisks. Now the Zerglings have moved in, and he may be able to just get enough raw DPS in to deal the damage. The Archons trying to attack. He's dealt quite a bit of damage to the Mutalisks, but if he doesn't kill them, they do have that regeneration on their tissue, so they will be able to heal very, very quickly to deal with this. And more Stalkers prepared. He has the Phoenix count. The Zerglings are coming in to try to add in a lot of DPS, but 3-3 is now complete for Paranoid. His Flyers doing so much extra damage. There's only +1 attack for Sage's Phoenix, so he now has Protoss Air Armor 1 as well, but he's still significantly down in the upgrades. His only advantage is the speed advantage and the range advantage for the Phoenix. He also has the upgrade advantage on the ground. Only 2-2 going to be complete for Paranoid very soon, starting as +3 Carapace, but 3-3 is done for Sage. Despite all losses taken, he's managed to get this base up. He's going to take another base on the top center. He may try to retake the bottom left base. There's still a good amount of resources available here, but now we have the Observer knows pretty much everything that's going on the map. We have Paranoid retaking the center bases. He didn't lose that 3rd base, but there wasn't really too much here to take since he was forced to take this base before his natural expansion. Now, Immortals being mixed in, possibly to deal with the Ultralisk transition that could come up as they will wreck through the Stalkers, but the Mutalisks coming in towards this top base. Now, moving in, the Phoenix trying to catch the Mutalisks here. He's going to spot this base as well. If he could snipe the Nexus, that'd be huge, but he needs to be careful he doesn't get blocked in here. About 14 Phoenix here trying to add in as much DPS as they can. The Mutalisks trying to run away. If he gets too close, the Mutalisks are just going to try to attack the Phoenix. No, he's moving back. The Archons are here in position as well. They deal so much damage to these biological units, but Paranoid retaining his Mutalisk count as long as he can. He's sustained some pretty big losses, but he can trade his supply away into Ultralisks if he wants to. In the base in the 3rd, getting hit by a Zergling run by with a 2-2 attack. He's going to be able to take down this Nexus finally, and the Mutalisk trying to swing in towards the top base. A lot of losses being taken by Sage here in terms of the worker count. Nexus does get sniped. There's about 1,000 gas left here, so that will be a pretty significant amount of resources that Sage has lost access to, and the Zerglings constantly checking for new bases while Paranoid continues to fly around the map with his conspiracy of Mutalisks. And now we have the Zerglings catching off a couple of these Stalkers here. Of course, the Zerglings trading for the gas units at this point is going to be huge for Sage. Gladly throw away anything to kill the gas units. But now the Mutalisks are going to run in towards that topside base. The Archons and Phoenix are here. Stalkers blink under the Mutalisks, trying to poke away at them. Will lose a couple of these Corruptors. He needs to make sure he doesn't trade too heavily into Mutalisks, because if the Corruptor count gets too low, he's not going to be able to deal with the Phoenix at all. 3-3 still on the way for Paranoid. He's banked up a couple of minerals, but he keeps rebuilding into this Air Force, and trading with the Zerglings is his best bet right now. But continue to look at some numbers. We've had 90 probes killed so far this game, 32 drones, so a lot of damage done by Paranoid. The resources lost, though, is really favoring Sage. He's been as cost-effective as he can be with his army, but is it going to be enough? It looks like he's going to try to engage over here in the bottom left side. Paranoid checking for another base. Sage may try to blink up and pick off a Corruptor or two, but concentrating his forces in the center of the map. Paranoid has done a lot of damage, but he's also traded so much away looking at the resources lost, so if Sage can continue to be cost-effective with his army, he may be able to pull this game out, but so much bank for Paranoid now. Sage barely has anything in terms of resources stocked. So the economic damage that Paranoid's been doing, he's traded away a lot of his own resources to prevent resource income for Mutalisks in the main base. This army not in position to defend. He's going to try to move in here and attack. The Phoenix coming in to harass these Mutalisks. It looks like Sage may be considering going for a base trade, but no. He's going to come back to try to defend against this. The huge Mutaball now hitting this almost 40 Mutalisks here for Paranoid. He's going to pick off a couple of the probes and then just run away again. Stalkers blink up, will kill off a Mutalisk or two, but if they get away from the fight, that health regeneration is just so good for them in terms of being able to recover for the next fight. So he's really just keeping Sage from doing anything to attack him, and it's becoming very, very difficult. He's forced him to also add an Immortal since he did scout the Ultralisk Cavern. That's been complete for quite a while. He now has his +3 Carapace. He's going to have his +3 melee attack done soon. Stalkers blinking up, catch a Mutalisk off guard in the main base area, but he's just having such a huge difficulty catching these Phoenix. But now Photon Cannon underpowered. He's going to be running in with some Zerglings, deals a bit of damage, but Sage is there to defend it. Another Zergling run by towards this center base. He's just going to try to pick this Nexus off. +3 attack not done just yet, but the Zerglings may be able to get the kill on this base, continuing to deny economy for Sage. He has no resources banked. He can barely produce any more units. Nexus does go down, and well, Mutalisk's continuing to poke away at this natural expansion. He's throwing in a ton of damage. Archons moving down towards the south area, trying to shove them away, but Paranoid is just going to slowly build himself up a massive lead. He's adding on 12 Mutalisks. He's not looking like he wants to transition away from this at all, but the brilliance behind what Paranoid is doing is he has the option to transition whenever he wants. He can go straight into Ling Ultralisk. His gas bank is a little bit low, but as long as he can keep Sage from attacking him, he can continue to bolster his economy, continue to try to get his gas mining up. He hasn't really retaken the gases on some of these bases. He has 9 drones on one of these guys. He's really been focusing on microing the Mutalisks, getting into the main base, picking away at the cannons, taking out the pylons, powering some of the gateways, may kill the main base Nexus. Zerglings running in towards the natural. He has Zerglings poised to attack the top left base, but there are cannons here and underpowering a lot of these gateways. The Fleet Beacon is also there to take as well, but Sage is just going to go for the counter push. He's at 183 supply, pushing in, taking out some of the bases for Paranoid, but how far is he going to push? Is he going to try to end this? And now comes the part. He's going to remax now, bringing in the Zerglings, bringing in the first Ultralisk of this game, and the Stalkers themselves have a hard time dealing with this. There are Templar position drops, a Storm clips a good number of these Mutalisks, taking a lot of damage. But Sage pushing in now towards the bottom center base. He's going to be able to get the very bottom base as well if he wants to. The Phoenix are in position trying to shove away the Mutalisks. There's just so many on the field for Paranoid. Look at the unit count. 45 Mutalisks on the field. The Archon's going to clip away some of these Mutalisks though. A lot of damage being done, and the Phoenix are going to poke at some of them. Manages to steal a couple of kills here, so Sage doing the best that he can to stay alive in this game, but the Mutacount going to pick up a couple of these Stalkers. Blinks back, leading the charge are the Archons. They have massive amounts of splash damage. He needs to get the High Templar here as well, though, but he's keeping them at home to defend, it seems. Now, finally bringing them over there, crossing the center of the map. The Stalkers will be able to pick off this bottom base, and Paranoid, he has a larger army supply, but he cannot directly engage this army. Instead, he's choosing to go for counterattacks, bringing the Zerglings over towards the other bases, but now, just running around and dealing as much damage as he can. And the army for Sage will be forced to retreat. He's going to try to come back here and defend this base. Seeing how low his economy has been this whole game, the Mutalisk flock is headed back over now towards the north side of the map. This Nexus might get sniped. The probes trying to hold position around it to deny surface area. The Phoenix coming in, lifting up the Zerglings. This Nexus is getting so low. It will die, though. And Paranoid has effectively shut down so much of the economy. There's only one Nexus about to complete for Sage that he'll be able to mine out of. So he's done so much economic damage to Sage. It's ridiculous. Stuck at 153 supply, having so much trouble getting his supply up. Losing the Fleet Beacon as well. He's lost a lot of his infrastructure. So Zerglings coming in, just dealing as much damage as they can. And he's got so many minerals he can continue to trade away as long as he likes. The Stargates are intact for the most part, but he can't really afford to produce anything out of them. So Sage is going to be trying to move forward now, kind of realizing in a bit of desperation that he needs to make something happen, and he needs to make something happen now. Moving to the west side of the map, the Mutalisks are in position. But Paranoid just has so many units, 2 Ultralisks now with all of those upgrades, has the Zerglings, does not have the Adrenal Glands upgrade on the Zerglings, but at this point, it's not the biggest deal ever. The army composition, not many charge lots. The Archons are good versus the Zerglings, but are they going to be enough to overwhelm the Mutalisk count at the same time, especially with the Ultralisks that now deal their full damage to Archons in Heart of the Swarm? So Sage has a very strong army, but if he gets forced into a base trade, he's going to take a lot of damage. Fortunately, the Observer is able to spot the movements of this air army, trying to get in position to block it, and now, here the Mutalisks come. He has everything centered around this base. He needs to defend this with his life. He's building up a bunch of gateways, adding on 7 gates there. The Mutalisks, though, are just going to run in towards the main and natural and deal as much damage as they can. Zerglings heading towards the top side, trying to find if that Nexus has been rebuilt. It has not, so he won't find too much to kill there, but these Mutalisks have just been such a thorn in Sage's side, really giving him a lot of difficulty this game, and now the Zerglings are going to head towards that south side. There are a couple of Archons here, just going to try to catch them here, and now dealing a lot of damage. Maybe able to kill off these Archons would be a huge score for Paranoid. Sage cannot afford to replace them. All of the tech really just bundled up into this one base, and now Paranoid just going to try to kill everything off here, sniping away these pylons, the cannons, the robotics facilities are left bare. He really wants to get the most important units. The Twilight Council, of course, very, very important. Being able to produce those, the Templar Archives being able to produce the Archons, which are the sole goal for destroying this. But Paranoid still having a lot of map control, a lot of map dominance. So his gas count's getting pretty low based on the investments that he's making. Needs to retake some of these gas geysers, especially this center base. He's mined out a lot of his expansions. He may end up just on pure Zergling in a little bit. So the army composition for Sage, eventually he could build up just a perfect force that if Paranoid is limited to only minerals for the rest of this game, he may not actually be able to create enough units to kill this many Archons. And it looks like Sage is going to go for a big push now. Phoenix coming in, spreading away some damage, chewing away at the Mutalisks. And this game may have actually gone on long enough that Paranoid, his resource effectiveness in terms of losing units, he's lost almost 12,000 more resources than Sage. This might be Sage's only chance. He still has a base on the east side of the map with full, fresh geysers. If he can continually draw this game out as long as possible, deny bases from Paranoid, he may be able to do enough damage to eventually build up enough that he could just take out Paranoid in one solid punch without worrying about a base trade. So Baneling speed now coming in for Paranoid. He may try to use Banelings to deal a bunch of AoE damage to Sage's army, but at this point, he can't afford to make that investment. The Zerglings are going to run up and try to do a bit of a cleanup work of these pylons being taken down. Sage actually can't really afford to replace the pylons, so a bit sour about that. Zerglings running over towards the natural. It has been walled off, but there's no cannon here to help clean up, and the Zerglings hitting the north side while the Mutalisks hit the east side. Storm does clip a lot of them, but that health regeneration on the Mutalisks is just so good. They will be able to recover very, very quickly, and now losing everything. All of the tech buildings are in the natural. He's going to lose the Templar Archives, possibly lose his forges, and that's what he's going to focus down. The Templar Archives will go down. No more Archon Zerglings in the main base. I guess what would be the main base now of Sage, and Sage is just going to go for it. He's just going to try to push into Paranoid, but there are too many buildings. He may not be able to win this base trade. He's going to need to bring probes with him to build pylons with his army, but he won't be able to build them on the creep, so it's going to be so difficult for Sage to actually go through all of the base and just kill Paranoid before he kills him. There's just too many Mutalisks on the field. So Sage is going to kill off one of the bases and immediately try to head home to defend this expansion. A storm does drop, hits a lot of these Mutalisks, but they have recovered already from the previous storm, so Sage is just trying to use these to defend as long as he can. This southwest base has been done. No gas mining, though, so it's just pure ling right now in terms of production for Paranoid. He has very, very little gas, little gas income, and when this hatchery is taken down, drops the storm on those drones, needs to make sure they die as fast as possible, leave a few zealots behind to clean that up. The Mutalisks won't get there in time to save the hatchery, but now a ton of Zerglings going to try to catch him. Drops some storms on the Zerglings. They're very, very weak. The Stalker's trying to get as many hits as they can, but the Ultralisks have also joined the fray now. The Templar trying to get storms on these Mutalisks, but the Templar immediately gets sniped away. The Archons dealing a load of damage to a lot of these Mutalisks, taking a super crazy amount of heat. And Paranoid has actually dropped significantly in supply. That fight wasn't effective for him at all. He lost so many of his Mutalisks. He lost so many Zerglings. He has enough money to remax on Lings, but that's not going to be enough to deal with this many Archons and the Storm and the Zealots in this army composition. This game has gotten absolutely ridiculous. Sage somehow has the supply lead on one base. There's just no money left at any of the bases for Paranoid. He's completely dry. Stalkers poking away, taking out these Zerglings, and for the first time in this game, it looks like Sage may have the upper hand. getting a Nexus up now, trying to take one of the very few bases left with any economy there. It's actually, the walking distance between these two bases is short enough that it's better for him to take this expansion than any other one on the map, which is kind of a hilarious notion, but Mutalisks, there's not really that threatening of a number of them now. Only 16 on the field. Very, very easy to deal with the composition that Sage has. He just needs to be careful, though, because if he doesn't have his Storm or Archons available, he may lose out his army very quickly. He's going to come in here to defend this West Nexus, but the Mutaling force is heading over towards the East one. There are no Templar here positioned to defend. There's no gas for Sage to warp anything in to defend, and this Nexus may just get sniped. Paranoid needs to kill this Nexus off more than anything else. The probes are going to try to be saved, but the Archons are coming in now as well. Phoenix poking away. He needs to leave some units at home, and you know what? This much damage might be enough to prevent Sage from getting the economy he needs to win. Paranoid putting together as many forces as he can, and now the Zerglings and Mutalisks are going to take out the West Nexus. It will be forced to be canceled by Sage. I think at this point he just needs to leave a couple of Templar at home, possibly an Archon or two, and then just go at it with everything else. It's his really only chance. He needs to prevent Paranoid from collecting any further economy. He has all the tech, he has this bank, but as he gets gas, he'll be able to immediately turn that into more powerful units. He can get more Mutalisks out, get more Zerglings, but that 5k mineral bank has been reduced to 2,000. The Zerglings trying to run in here and kill this Nexus will not be able to. Muta's in position. The Phoenix are here, though. Will lose 2 of the Phoenix, though, so a pretty big loss from Sage. He's still supply blocked. Hasn't been able to... His army supply has not increased once since he lost the main base and the natural with all of the tech. So Muta count has been dwindled down even further. There are only 12 Mutalisks remaining for Paranoid, but Sage, he's going to step out and try to catch this army. He just needs to be very careful. All he needs to do is leave a couple of Storms at home to keep the Mutalisks away with an Archon or two, and then just try to push, but Paranoid's building up a lot of Zerglings now, and this is one of the problems here, is he could possibly just move these Spine Crawlers to help defend his bases against these possible pushes, but both these players are really spending a lot of their APM, a lot of their attention on getting their economy up. So Sage, rather than trying to push, is going to try to get an additional Nexus up. I don't think he realizes how far ahead he is in terms of army composition. If he can, all he needs to do is defend his base and push and deny economy, but Sage just wants to get his own economy up. He wants to be able to put out enough units to max out, but it leaves him very vulnerable. He has left some units at home this time, though, so he will be able to defend this Nexus. The Archons deal tremendous amounts of damage, and having these Archons in with this army is so good. Being able to one-shot these Zerglings, having tons of damage capabilities versus these Mutalisks, and having the Storm to drop against the Corruptors as well. So this just gives a really nice place for Paranoid. Now he's going to move in and try to surround Sage's army here. Storms dropping on the Zerglings. Zerglings all eating these Storms, dying very quickly, and Paranoid dropping below 100 supply yet again in this game. He has a bunch of minerals banked, but he doesn't want to spend them just on Zerglings. They're not very effective versus the Archons. He's currently mining off of 2 gas geysers now, so he's going to be able to put out a few more units, but at this point, what do you make as Paranoid to bring yourself back in this situation? You need a unit that can bypass the strong AoE damage of the Archon, as well as the direct damage and the range of the Stalkers, and when you're trying to kill these bases off. So getting more Mutalisks and just trying to catch him out of position isn't a terrible idea, but at this point there's not enough resources really left in the map that he can mine out, at least on his side, to be able to put up any kind of Hydralisk or Roach-based army to try to fight against the Stalker Archon force. So the Mutaling does take a lot of bonus damage, but he's kind of really committed to it. He has those 3/3 upgrades on the on the Corruptors and the Mutalisks, and he's going to try to move in now and just try to snipe off this Templar Archives. Would be a really big score for him. That's what basically all of the gas for Sage is going into. Zergling force in the northeast side. Going to try to catch him with these probes, but Sage is mining again. He's unsupply blocked himself. He's able to finally reproduce units for it's been about like 15 minutes since he actually made any units. We're at the 52-minute mark in this game. It's getting quite ridiculous. But Sage, he's hanging in there strong, refusing to surrender in this game, and his tenacity may be the crux to bringing him back in this game. Now, Paranoid is having a lot of difficulty now destroying him. He's committed so many of these resources to this harass all game long, but all that's done is completely mine on his side of the map. Sage still 14,000 resources ahead in resources lost. The Great Storm clips so many of these units. The Mutalisks do have the regen, but the Corruptors do not. They're all very low on hit points, and well, Paranoid's trying to get up his mining economy, but he hasn't really replaced too many of his drones at all, really. He doesn't have many drones at all to mine. He had some pulled somewhere earlier on, but looking at the unit count, yeah, Paranoid only has 19 drones, and he doesn't have them all mining on all of his bases. So his economy very, very low, even though he has this hatchery. He has a fresh hatchery now in the center of the map, but without any economy, he's purely committing to trying to get up units to destroy the forces of Sage, and this is just so difficult to do with just Zergling Mutalisk. Even Banelings, if he could get a good hit with maybe a drop, he has Overlords. I'm not even sure at this point. Sage has mined out all the minerals at this base, but the gas is worth it for him to stay at least until he gets at the next 600. And at this point, Sage is taking it one base at a time, saying basically, okay, well, I've got this base, I'm going to mine it out, and then I'm just going to move on and rebuild everything else at a new base, basically. Stalker's trying to shove away these Mutalisks, but he doesn't want to lose his tech again. That will hurt him a lot. Losing the gateways also hurts. Storm drops. Zergling's coming in, trying to get us run on these Archons, and it looks like Paranoid's going to go for it. The Storms are hitting everything, though. Mutalisk's taking extreme amounts of damage. Really, really hurting that Mutalisk count. The Archons take a bit of heat, but now he's going to push in, deny the economy of Paranoid. He has enough. He has enough to sit at home. He can defend while pressuring at the same time. Sage has finally built up enough forces to be aggressive while defending, and the Mutalisks are going to try to take a fight here, but the Phoenix dealing tons of damage. The Corruptor count solo. Another Storm's going to drop. The Stalkers are here. He's going to blink up, picking off these Mutalisks. Sage denying the center base for Paranoid. There's no money left on the map for him to mine. The Ultralisks and Zerglings are going to try to fight this, but the Archons, are they going to be too strong for these Ultralisks to break through? And it looks like, yes, Sage pushes through. GG from Paranoid. An absolutely amazing game. Number 1 in this best of 9 series. Oh my god. What a sick game from Sage. Down so much in supply. The Mutalisks picking him apart left and right. It really looked like the game could have gone either way at that point in the game. Absolutely ridiculous, but fantastic control from Sage. Great decision making with when he chose to attack Paranoid's economy and when he chose to sit back, trying to take the expansions. And he really didn't try to force anything, which is I think why Sage was able to play that. He played it as patiently as humanly possible, and in this hour-long game, it paid off in big dividends for him. What a sick game, guys. That was absolutely ridiculous. That's game number 1. This is the Acer Team Story Cup. I am Nathanias. Hope you guys are enjoying the cast. Appreciate all comments in Reddit threads as well as Team Liquid threads as to your thoughts on commentary. And we'll get into the next game as soon as we can, guys. Don't go anywhere.